man, I'll tell you the truth. I am really enjoying talking about what I've been sharing with you for the last couple of weeks. I know that the messages have not been what we call evangelistic messages, but most of y'all have heard that all your life anyhow. Right now, brothers and sisters, you need to know what's going on in your world that you live in. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about disaster by design. I think you heard that on the radio last Sunday, if you weren't here. Last week, we talked about the emergency powers of the President of the United States, which aired this morning on the radio. Today, I want to continue in the same vein so that we as Africans can catch up to what's going on in our society. I want us to come up to speed to what's going on around us. So today I want to tell y'all really what they have been holding back from us and totally misdirected our minds into thinking something other than what really is. Today I want to talk about this subject. Who really owns and runs America? Who really owns this country? Who really runs this country? I know a lot of people think that the president does. A lot of people think that Congress does. A lot of people think that the House and Senate, which comprises Congress, I know they think that these lawmakers run the country. Brothers and sisters, I got news for you today. These people are nothing but pawns in what is called an international game of chess. Now, those of you, let me see the hands of those of you who know how to play chess. Let me see your hand. All right, well then y'all really grab right quick what I'm talking about. Those who don't know how to play chess, let me tell you, chess is a game of strategy. And in order to hope to win, you have to have some sense of strategic idea and planning. Let's talk first of all about the forms of government. Now I'm telling y'all right now, before we go any further in the message, I'm going to be doing some educating here today, okay? How many of y'all have ever heard the word Democratic before? All right. How many of y'all, by the way, in here Democrats? Let me see your hand. All right, I see some hands. How many of you ever heard the word Republican before? How many of you are Republicans? Let me see your hand. All right, mostly Democrats. Isn't it deep that most black folk are Democrats? And it's really deep because I don't think any of us really know why. But I'm going to help you understand today what that's really about. There are various forms of government, brothers and sisters. But basically, they come into two categories. Everybody say, rule by God, and the other is rule by man. Now, the first form of government, as we just said, ruled by God, is called a theocracy. Coming from the word theos, theocratic, meaning it is a government by immediate divine guidance. Under the category of rule by man, there are various forms, and I'm going to try to touch on those today. The first form of government, theocratic, theocracy, ruled by God, whether we want to admit it or not, we virtually have no control, brothers and sisters, over the theocratic form of government. This is God's decision. God is the one who determines this type of government depending on her plans. Y'all heard what I said, right? I said her plans. See, ancient Africans understood that the creative force was considered the mother goddess creative force of the universe. This his idea is something that we learn from the patriarchal concept and chauvinistic mind of the European man. But since we're still in there, I'm trying to kind of help us develop into an awareness of, so we say his, her, or her a lot. Being that the theocratic form of government is determined by God, it really doesn't make much sense for me to even discuss that form of government because it's not a viable alternative. There are various forms, however, of man-made government. Some of the more common types are, everybody repeat after me, where no one rules. Where no one rules. That's the first. The proper word for that is anarchy. When nobody rules, that's called an anarchy. In an anarchy, you have what is called lawless confusion, disorder, chaos, and turmoil. That's in an anarchy. Then you have another type of government where one man rules. That's called a dictatorship or a monarchy. In that you are liable to see what's called unlimited rule. You're liable to see something called tyranny. You're liable to see what might be referred to as a totalitarian government, wherein coercion is used to rule the people. The other type of government is where a few people rule. The proper word for that is oligarchy. O-L-I-G-A-R-C-H-Y. In an oligarchy, you have what's called a small elite group of people that rules the masses. The nobility group exercising control, and usually it's for corrupt and selfish reasons. Then you have a type of government called where the majority rules. That's called a democracy. Y'all have heard of that before, right? Yes. For you Democrats. Yes. Okay? A democracy. That consists of what is called constitutionally elected representatives. A democracy is a form of government that is traditionally controlled at the top by a small ruling group of people or oligarchy. The people in a democracy are conditioned to believe, follow what I'm saying to you people, the people in a democracy are conditioned to believe that they are indeed the decision-making power. Yes. Did you hear that? Yes. But in truth and in reality, the people are not the decision-making power. It's that small group of people at the top that makes all of the decisions for the masses. In a democracy, they lie to you and tell you go vote. And the masses go vote thinking that in what's going on. When in reality, after you vote, it's still that small oligarchy at the top that makes the decisions. So the only true form of government throughout history has been the oligarchy, or that rule by a minority for the majority. In the 1928 United States Army Training Manual, what year did I say? 1928. Yes. The 1928 United States Army Training Manual defines a democracy as, and I quote, a government of the masses, Authority derived through mass meeting or any form of direct expression. Sometimes, follow this good now, sometimes this definition results in what is called a mobocracy. A mobocracy. M-O-B-O-C-R-A-C-Y. You'll understand what it is. And that is actually a word. Look it up in the dictionary. A mobocracy is often confused for a democracy. The only thing, mobocracy is the mob. Oh yeah. When the mob rules, what do we mean by the mob? When you got a group of people who are unruly, lawless, and confused, that constitutes what is called a mobocracy. I'll spell it again for you. M-O-B-O-C-R-A-C-Y. The attitude in a mobocracy is that the will of the majority or the mob shall regulate based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, or without restraint or regard to consequence. There's another form of government that protects both the minority and the majority. It's called a republic. Now I asked how many Republicans were in here. I didn't see all any hands go up. Well, let me tell you about the republic. Republic defined by law is one or entity that is ruled by the law. A republic in the Republican form of government, the power rests not in the majority, the power rests not in the mobocracy, but the power rests under the Republican form of government in a written constitution, wherein the powers of the government are limited so that the people retain the maximum amount of power themselves. So in other words, under the Republican form of government, it has nothing to do with how many people are on your side. It has to do with what does the Constitution say. In addition to limiting the power of government, care is also taken to limit the power of the people, to restrict the rights of both the majority and the minority. For example, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example here of democracy, republic, mobocracy. How many of y'all have ever seen a cowboy pit? Anybody watch westerns? Okay, you've seen them, I'm sure. Whether you like it or not, I'm sure you've seen what I'm getting ready to tell you. Here's the story where this bad guy comes into town. Okay? And what he does when he gets into town is he guns down this poor, unobtrusive merchant by provoking him into a gunfight. You ever see that you're going to draw, or either draw on the count of three, or I'm going to shoot you anyway. One of them kind of things. So this poor innocent merchant is out there trying to draw on this gunslinger villain. And the villain shoots him in cold blood, as they say. Now, the sheriff down the street hears the gunshot, and he comes running to the scene, and he asks the crowd, what happened? So the crowd tells the sheriff, this man shot this man in cold blood. He wasn't doing anything. He provoked him into a gunfight and killed him. What does the sheriff do? The sheriff arrests the gunslinger, take him down the street, and lock him up in the jail, right? That's what happens, right? Y'all gonna talk back to me? Right. All right. Now, back at the scene of the shooting, a particular individual who wants to call himself the speaker for the crowd starts telling the crowd, we need to take the law into our own hands. And we need to go down to the jail and bust him out of jail and lynch him. You've seen that type of setting, right? God knows it happened to our people enough times, and we had done nothing wrong. So, because of the influence of this brother who stood up to convince the group they to go take the law in their own hands, they all start deciding that this is the course of action that they should take. Now notice, the group now becomes a democracy. Okay? Because the majority of the people decided we need to go lynch this guy. Y'all with me? All right. Now what happens is as they go down the street, they start hollering and screaming and yelling and everything. Now the democracy becomes a mobocracy. Y'all following this thing now, right? They reach the jail and the sheriff comes out and says, what's going on out here? Now this democracy, which has now become a mobocracy, demands that the sheriff let him go so we can lynch him. The sheriff says, regardless of how many people are standing out there, the sheriff says, it's my duty to protect this man and see to it that he gets a what? Fair trial. The reason for that is because the sheriff is enforcing what is known as the Republican form of government. If it was a Democratic form of government where the people majority rules, the sheriff would have to let him go and they would lynch him. Well, the sheriff tries to show the people the law. And eventually the people realize that the sheriff is right. And they disperse and they go home. At least that's the way it ought to turn out. The Republican form of government has triumphed over the Democratic form of the mob action. Ooh, buddy, I'll tell you, there's another situation in the Bible of Republican form of government. Y'all been reading it all the time, didn't know it. There was a guy in the Bible, in the biblical text, called Jesus. And he had been arrested. And the Republican form of government was to see to it that he gets a trial. But the mob, the Democratic form of government, convinced Pontius Pilate to wash his hands and say, okay, I tried to institute the Republican form of government. Y'all insist on doing it y'all's way. Here, take the man. And what did they do? The mob took him and did what? Crucified him, right? Y'all forgot the story? Y'all ain't that far liberated, are you? It's easy, brothers and sisters, to see how a democracy can turn into a mobocracy of angry individuals if not careful. Who owns this government? The Democratic Party? The Republican Party? I got news for y'all today. There was this guy from England named Lord Halifax. I don't know why they decided to call themselves Lord and Duke and all that kind of stuff, but Lord Halifax of England said, and I quote him, "They who are of the opinion that money will do everything may very well be expected to do everything for money." You got that? I'll say it again. They who are of the opinion that money will do everything may very well be expected to do everything for money. Now, I just told y'all the whole message. I just told you the whole message. I just told you why everything that's been happening in the last few weeks has been happening. You see, people, with money comes power. Now, for the unscrupulous people, nothing will stand in their way to achieve the ultimate in power. Such people are driven by greed.